We have reports that the Academic Staff Union of Universities has issued a 21-day ultimatum to the federal government over what it called unresolved issues with them. Addressing the press in Michael Okpara University of Agriculture on Wednesday, the president of ASUU, Emmanuel Osodeke, highlighted the issues to include emergency revitalization fund of public universities, payment of outstanding earned academic allowances, and release of withheld salaries, promotion arrears, and third-party deductions of their members. He also said that the other issues include stoppage of illegal recruitment, proliferation of public universities, abuse of university laws, regulations, and processes, and removal of universities from the Treasury single account and new IPPIS vis-a-vis to herald the autonomy of their universities. He explained that the Academic Staff Union of Universities held its National Executive Council meeting at the University of Ibadan between Saturday 17 and August 18, 2024, where the union undertook a comprehensive review of the outcomes from its engagement with the federal and state government on various outstanding issues that have encumbered the development of Nigerian universities and hindered university workers' drive to reposition them for the transformation of Nigeria. They also regretted that the university's issues over which ASUU has been engaging federal government and state government in the last decade or so are yet to be meaningfully addressed. Ambassador.
Yes, I'd like to thank this particular chapter of ASUU for taking time to review their activities and their engagement with the federal government, and then to see how the university system becomes more robust and progressive is a good one. Again, I also like to commend them talking about the issue of autonomy of the university, which we also advocate. And this autonomy, like we have suggested, is that of course, it will not be absolute autonomy. It will be autonomy where the Ministry of Education will still supervise and the relevant authorities. But it's also going to be an autonomy where accountability must be the hallmark. It has to also be autonomy where the university should generate their revenues, pay their workers. For me, like I always say, it will help to reduce the issue of strike in terms of welfare. So generate any amount of money that you desire that federal government should pay, and then agree with the NUC, the Nigerian University Commission, also agree with the Ministry of Education, so that you as vice chancellor or provost of a particular polytechnic or thereabout, you will run the university, provide those wonderful things that you have been advocating for, that is making our universities not to be well functional. Because I think that's part of what the autonomy will help you achieve, so that the blame game between federal government and ASUU will reduce. So I want to think that, and also encourage the federal government, please give us the university autonomy, but not absolute autonomy, because there must still be a supervisory body. I also want to encourage that this autonomy that should be given to them should include revenue generation. All what the federal government can do should be maybe subsidy, because you can subsidize in every sector. It's not only in petroleum that you do subsidy. So federal government can do subsidy in the university system, complementing what they have and what government can support them to ensure that we have a good educational system. So the autonomy will be wonderful, and we trust that there will be no abuse of that autonomy.
So they should fix their own school fees.
Of course. And they challenge that, most times these things are in between. When we say raise your revenue, most times because we have a taxation mentality, the revenue will only be accrued from students, and not thinking about how they can generate other sources of revenue by maybe industrializing the university system, the sectors that can go into industrialization, coming up with avenues to generate revenues from what they can produce.
But can't all of that be done now even without the absolute autonomy you're talking about?
You see, it is assumed that federal government cannot provide all of this. So,
but the federal government have advised ASUU to actually do exactly what you're saying, industrialize and look for alternative ways to make money.
So they can achieve this with the autonomy.
That's what I'm saying. Without that, with the way it is now, with the present system, are you saying the universities cannot also achieve that?
They can.
Okay.
Once they look inward, like everybody's asking them to look inward, they can.
So why do they have to wait till when the autonomy you're talking about comes?
You
if
see,
they can actually do the same things now?
Most times, the government institution looks like a community goat. A community goat, nobody knows whether the goat have eaten or not. So they only assume that maybe somebody may have given the goat food. So it's assumed that whether the goat is crying or starving, nobody will know.
Okay.
So if it is a personal goat, just like the private universities, all these things will not be waited for. So I want to think that they can, but maybe they are asking for the willpower, which is the autonomy. So that's why we are encouraging that take the autonomy, the university, but of course, like I said, and I know it will not be absolute autonomy.
All right, Mufasa.
Well, thank you very much. For me, most of the issues here are not new. These were issues that, have been on the table, since about more than a decade ago, and it's coming to me more or less like a broken record, okay? Most times I wonder where our priority lies as a people, because whether we like it or not, education is a bedrock, for any society that has a desire to grow and advance. And obviously what we see in this country is a complete far cry. Now, talking about autonomy, I know that most of these universities are state-owned. We have more state-owned universities than the federal-owned universities. And the state-owned universities are doing relatively well because they are getting more attention from their government. There's nothing wrong if government, funds education. I'm sure the university alone cannot run the education. Even now that we have the TED Fund and some other interventionist agencies that once in a while they give grants and supports to the universities and other higher institutions in the country. But what I've observed is the government does not really have so much interest in public institutions. Perhaps like some of the issues raised by ASUU, that proliferation of universities, both public and private, and some of the private universities are owned by these same government officials. So what do you expect? They don't mind if they run down the public institutions just for people to lose complete confidence in our in our public institutions. So I wouldn't agree more. I wouldn't want to align so much with autonomy, because if you do that, most of the children of the poorest of the poor
will not be able
to go to school.
True.
Already the school fees is something else. Tuition fees is something else. Most people can afford it. He talked about subsidizing education, which for me is good and fine, because if you go to other advanced countries in Europe and America, they do so. They give loans and all of that. I'm not talking about this, what they call a student loan.
Why are you not talking about that? That's also a student
loan. No, that
loan.
is not that. Before you come up with a program that you have sincerity of purpose and intention, you must have put all the necessary, structure in place. What we do in this country is political gimmicks.
What structures do you think
now,
does not put in place?
As I speak with you, people are still having doubts. Yes.
Even though a lot of people are already receiving
people are receiving. What is the ratio? What is the figure? We're talking about a system. If you go to America and Europe, because if we are making comparison, let us make comparison with advanced countries that are doing well.
With developed nations, when we're a developing nation.
We got our independence in 1960. Nigeria became a republic in 1963. There are countries in Africa today that we got independence before them, and they are doing well. It is priority. If we continue to remain in this perpetual infantisis, what I'll call, because we keep saying that, oh, Nigeria is a great country, it's a place we are developing. For how long will Nigeria become a matured man? We are above 50 as a nation. We travel out of this country every now and then. Our political class, they travel out of this country every now. They see how things are done there. We have the resources. We have the brains. How come we are not replicating what we see in Europe and America and Nigeria? There are countries in Africa today that are doing very, very well, both educationally and otherwise.
So what do you think is the
what I think, what my problem is this: there is no sincerity of purpose and intention, and I stand here to speak with valid authority, and I'm responsible for what I say.
In what aspect?
Good. Now you're talking about student loan. Now we don't have a well cut out plan as to how these loans can be repaid, because if you are giving a loan to somebody, it's expected that the person pay you back as soon as the person leaves school. The people you have a army of unemployed youth leaving schools today. How would that person be able to pay you when the person doesn't have a job? The state does not have arrangement to provide you, because in other countries, other claims that I just mentioned, they know that as soon as you leave school, they provide job for you. As you are working, they are deducting certain percentage from your salary. But in the whole country, you are threatening that if you cannot pay, you go to jail and all of that. Who does that? These are political arrangements. There is no sincerity of purpose and intention. But I don't want to talk about that. Let's focus on ASUU. Now, ASUU, in I think it was in 2020 or 21 or so, that we had the last longest strike from February to October. Yes. And some of these issues raised by ASUU were equally almost the same thing that made them to go on strike.
It's been the same thing.
Yes. So how come that these things have not been addressed? Where does our priority lie as a nation? I leave that for our ruling class to answer.
You know, we keep having these meetings between ASUU and the federal government, and agreements keep being reached, and then we hear that agreements have been reached, and then a deadline is given, we'll keep your part and we'll keep our part, and then you find out that the federal government did not keep theirs.
You see, the truth is, we know that we have leaders. Some leaders are not responsive. And most times, too, when some decisions are taken under duress, it's certainly you may not see truth in the manifestation of that decision.
So you think even the 2009 agreement was taken under duress?
You see, when you strike and the government feels that agreeing with you is to enable you stop the strike is the only option, because don't go on strike. Let us do this way. You say, no, we must go on strike, except what you are asking for is being achieved. I like to say that until, I will not say that proliferation of universities should not continue, until when we have seen that the public school, we cannot guarantee the duration of our children going to school, graduating at the normal time, with the requisite knowledge they ought to have, then we can say no longer new institution. Of course, it's a strategy to weaken the ASUU, the public schools, because of course the children will not remain at home. My brother cited the issue of state institution, universities. Of course, there are some state governments that have a policy of no work, no pay. And of course, that's not that the government are giving the state universities all that they wanted, but simply because there is that law, there is that policy that of no work, no pay, that has checkmated most of our state universities not to go on strike. And I commend such kind of actions. That's why very many of us now, everybody wants their children to go to state universities, because they are sure that the strike opportunities are slim.
Well, nobody is happy about ASUU going on strike, but we're looking at the federal government keeping their part of the agreement.
That's why I said that the federal government will have leaders who too are not sincere. Now, let me also say that let it not be that some ASUU members who traveled abroad are yet to return back, and they are trying to hold brief. That is ASUU, right? They are trying to hold brief for them to return back with the threat of strike. Because sometimes, like I said here, it looks as if most time that the ASUU members love the strike because some of them are into private businesses. So most times, because of their personal businesses, the issue of this strike is being threatened to ensure that they have the freedom of doing their private business.
So for government that cares about the educational system in the country and about the students and about them not staying at home due to ASUU strike and trying to avoid ASUU from doing just what you said, probably, right? So why don't you just keep your part of the agreement? Why don't you just pay more attention to education? Why don't you, this is an agreement. You know what an agreement is?
You see, I do not subscribe for a government to have an agreement and do not keep. Because every agreement of government represents the integrity of that country. So I like to say that each time agreement is made, whether with ASUU or any group, if there's any need to review that agreement, it's ideal to bring those people back to the table. Yes, that agreement we had, we have gone back and checked that it may not be possible if we go this way. I think the ASUU members are also Nigerians. So my plea and my request is this. For us to solve this issue once and for all, it may not be the final end of academic crisis in Nigeria. Let us give ASUU the autonomy to run these schools. Let us give subsidy to these universities. Vice chancellors, provosts, devise a means of ensuring that we have good and quality education.
Right.
What are the areas that government can come in to assist? The people that support the quality education is not only government. Philanthropists do. We have some department that philanthropists provide, machines for them and all that. So let us, all join hands. Also should mention to us the areas some of us can get involved, so that it will not be government.
All right, Mufasa, I'll add to that in a few minutes.
Well, let me also say that I know that they've succeeded in killing the primary and secondary system of education. Nobody wants to send his kids to any of the government-owned primary and secondary school. And for me, I think they're trying to extend it to, the university, so that their own private university built with our own money, people can now begin to see that as an option, okay? But going forward, for me, I want to say that government should take education as a priority. By so doing, if you are entering into any form of agreement, you should be very, very circumspect in the terms and conditions. The moment you agree on something, like you said, I like the part you said that an agreement is your integrity is at stake. So the moment you agree on something, try as much as possible to fulfill that agreement so that you can have that integrity, the people can have confidence when you speak as a leader. But what we see today is nothing to write home about. So going forward, ASUU should on their part see how to present something that they know that this government can meet and stand by it. Enough of this incessant strike. If you say we want this and the government does not give you the, remain on strike until that change happens.
Wow. All right, we have reports that from the Ministry of Education, the spokesperson has actually said that the federal government is on the matter. We're going on a short break now, and after that, when we return, we'll delve straight to the other stories. Please stay with us.